his little brother. She's going to be so proud that I used it today. So God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. Is that true? You know, I got to tell you, today I walked in and I saw somebody with a Starbucks, and I was like, man, you went to Starbucks? I'll put my order in next week. And he said to me, well, don't wait for next week, because I got an extra one today, and I was going to hand it to somebody who was wanting a Starbucks. And I was like, I am a master manifester. That was awesome. You know? And, you know, as we do the work of love, you know, love shows up for us. You know, and we don't have to negate that. We can expect it. We can still be surprised for it when it shows up, but we can celebrate it, and what we focus on increases. So today's talk is about diversity and celebrating diversity. And there was this quote, we are social creatures to the innermost center of our being. We are social creatures to the innermost center of our being. And the notion that one can begin anything at all from scratch, free from the past or unindebted to others, could not conceivably be more wrong. So it's like we live on the shoulders of others, you know. We are here because our parents, because our grandparents, because of some strong-willed person. Specifically, if we're here in America, we're all immigrants. You know, we all came from other places, and our ancestors had to go through serious stuff to get here, you know. Not any worse than actually what's happening today. So this quote seems to me to be talking about creativity, but also just about social, you know, responsibility. Like, we're all, you know, guests here on this great land of America, which was actually Indian territory, right? So anyhow, didn't mean to go there, but whatever. So, so we are a melting pot, a great mosaic of God. I'm going to use the mic. We are a melting pot, a great mosaic of God. And we're different but the same, and diversity is the difference. And we have people with different opinions, and we want to negate them, but it would be better if we invite them. And different backgrounds, and we want to negate, and different religious beliefs, and different political beliefs, and different sexual orientations, and heritage, and life experiences. And this is diversity. You know, it's the differences. What we do with the diversity is called, you know, segregation or inclusion. And it's really beneficial if we start to learn the art of inclusion. I personally have said this before, and I really would like to continue to hold the belief that we are an inclusive and diverse community. But you know, the truth is, I look around, there's a lot of white people here. So you know, what's ours to do is the question. You know, we can just begin to answer that question. What is ours to do? What would the Holy Spirit have us do? So have you ever looked at a handful of sand? You know, and if somebody asks you, what is that color? You'd say sand, right? But then when you look really closely, there's like a million different colors there. Like a million different shades, a million different colors. And so we get to be like that sand, a million different shades of gold and brown and blue even. Like as an artist, you probably notice this a lot. So the idea is to hold on to your uniqueness, to not to conform, but to see what your uniqueness can bring to the melding pot of society. So within us, within all of us, we're kind of like that sand, right? We're this sand in God's hand, and he's saying, look, this is sand. And the beauty comes from our willingness to mix and mingle with each other. That's where it's really beautiful, you know, when the sand takes on all of these different colors. And in losing ourselves in the pack, sometimes it feels really safe. And then in losing ourselves in the pack, sometimes it feels really scary. So when it feels safe, when I was an actress, I wanted to be around other actresses. You know, I wanted to find my similarities, and I wanted to be with my type, you know, so they could help me navigate my specific situation. When I was a young mom, I wanted to be around other young moms because I wanted to figure out how to navigate this thing called young moms. First generation people, when they come over here, most of the time they end up in neighborhoods that are exactly like the neighborhoods that they left in the old country, you know? And that's not a bad thing. You know, that's us seeking our similarities and seeking some safety in our similarities. When it becomes confining, you know, they say birds of a feather flock together. So there's even sayings about this. But when it comes confining, it's when we begin to play it too safe. And we never venture outside of our tribes. And that's one of the biggest fears that most of us face, is venturing outside the tribe. If you're in this church, you know you can do it because you already ventured outside, most of you, your tribe of your religious philosophy. You weren't born into this philosophy of SpeakEasy, which isn't even a religion. So you can pat yourself on the back that you are venturers. That's good to know. But it's scary to venture, It's one of the scariest things to do. But it also is the very thing that expands our consciousness. And we're here to expand our consciousness. When I was a kid, we had neighborhoods, much like the neighborhoods that we have today. And there was the Jewish neighborhood, and there was the black neighborhood. And we even had, I was raised in this kind of society, and maybe you were too, specific slurs and derogatory terms for people that lived in those neighborhoods. And why do we have those terms? Because we were taught, I was taught, don't venture out. I mean, we're literally coming from this conversation that continued to tell us, many of us in many different ways, don't venture out. Stick with your own. You'll get hurt out there. They're different, right? And, especially as a Catholic, it was like my dad wanted nothing more than an Irish Catholic son-in-law. And 6 daughters couldn't give him one. We have like the UN at our table. But that's really what he wanted. What he thought would be optimal is if he had an if you could marry Catholic, good on you, And this is not just in the Catholic religion. If you're Jewish and you marry a Jewish doctor, you've succeeded, So it's not just about the Catholics, it's about all of our addiction to similarities. But why? Why do we do this to ourselves, and why do we teach this to our children? The basic answer is fear. And the basic flavor of fear is fear of the unknown. Like, we don't really know them. And if we don't know them, we can't trust them, right? And so in order to bust through that fear, the thing that we need to do is to know them, is to get to know, to open up to the idea. So there's a story that I use in my house called turkey meatballs. Because I like to say turkey meatballs, but also because it's a good story. So as meat eaters, my family was meat eaters because we were raised as meat eaters. And then one day Will read this book, Eating Meat or Eating Animals, and forget about it. Like, nobody could turn back. And he had to read us pieces of the book, and we're like, no, we don't want to hear. We just want our burgers. Go away. So he was able to, hook me and Billy into the conversation of not eating meat. But the 2 younger ones were like not having it. So I thought, well, I'll just expand their palate a little bit by trying new types of meat, not just red meat. We'll try turkey meatballs. And you would have thought that I was murdering them. They were like, turkey meatballs? What are you doing? Turkey meatballs? We don't want turkey meatballs. We want ordinary meatballs. So the very first thing that comes with integration is total resistance. Like, total resistance. Martin Luther King said this beautiful thing in this book, The Strength to Love. Hold on one second. And he said this beautiful demonstration of the degree of resistance that a lot of us have. It's in a chapter called Tough Mind, Tender Heart. The soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has an almost morbid fear of the new. This lives within all of us, a morbid fear of what is new. For him, the greatest pain is the pain of new ideas. An elderly segregationist in the South is reported to have said, I have come to see now that desegregation is inevitable, but I pray God that it will not take place until after I die. I know, but if that sounds insane, but like, that's the turkey meatball thing. Like, kill me first before I try a turkey meatball. You know what I mean? That's also with technology. We're like, I'm fine with the beeper. I'm fine with not knowing how to work the VCR. Just kill me first before I have to read the directions on that. This is where our mind gets small. And we all have these small little minds in certain areas, and so it's funny, but it's also true. So that's the turkey meatball, and so the first step is complete resistance to the point of willing to die for it. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And so the next step is what I call ridicule. Okay, so go with the turkey meatball story. Like, if I persist with the thing that they're going to eat the turkey meatballs, then we begin to ridicule. Turkey meat is jerky meat. And we find funny little things to say about turkey meat. Now, we think it's funny with turkey meat, but the names that we call other people, the N-word, the C-word, all of the words, they're pretty tame compared to turkey meat is jerky meat. I can handle that. But this is it. And when we invite new ideas and foods and philosophies into the conversation, first we will resist it to death, and then we will ridicule it. But the good news is, if you're being ridiculed for being different, at least you're in the room. Like, that's a step forward. Believe it or not, that's a step forward. So like in sitcom world, I recognize this, that like the first time an African American or a gay character was brought into our idea of a television show, they were never the leading man or leading woman. First they had to be the goofy sidekick who we could just make the butt of a joke. And that seemed unfair, but that's part of the process. It's almost like the hazing that goes on in college campuses where they say, are you strong enough to earn your seat here? I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying it's what happens. And if we know that that's what happens, then we can deal with that. So we can look at that in ourselves too. When we start to let go of the idea of this will kill me, then I'm going to start to make fun of it and find little things that it's not living up to it. So that's the ridicule phase. Turkey meat is jerky meat. And then the next phase is bargaining. Okay, we're going to let them on the bus, but we're going to make them sit in the back. This is the bargaining phase. With my kids, it might look like, okay, have a little piece of turkey meat. I will cover it in so much sauce that you don't even recognize it's there, right? And this is what we do with each other. Oh yeah, you can get married, but it won't be a real wedding. Because you're not really worthy to be in the complete conversation. Or yeah, you can have the same job as me, but we're not actually going to pay you the same, right? So these are ways that we bargain with bringing in new ideas. So that we can look like we're inviting them in, but also at the same time, let those people know that they're not really welcomed, okay? I don't mean to shame or blame anybody here because it lives within all of us, but again, it's just good for us to know that that's how we integrate things, We start to bargain around it. Okay, I'll try turkey meat, but I'm only going to try a little of it, going to cover it in sauce, and I won't actually ever experience it. And then what happens is time. And time does a whole lot for us. If we continue to, move forward in time, and if we continue to show up and tell our truth, if we continue to do what love would have us do, then eventually we're going to move into acceptance. And acceptance is pretty good. Acceptance at least puts it on the menu, and it gives us an option. You could order meat or you can order turkey meat, and we begin to accept it without conditions, But when we know there's real healing, is when we have gained appreciation, When we've gained appreciation, acceptance unconditionally, and then moving into appreciation and saying, oh my God, look what you bring to the party. Before I wanted to kill myself, before, I even tried to have this conversation, and now I see that you actually make this conversation richer. So those are some of the steps that you might want to consider where you're at in regards to opening your mind and trying new things and meeting new people and having new conversations. I know so many people who are like just so close-minded. Like, no, we don't go there, we don't do that. I've never been there, I can't go there, I couldn't do that. We do it with ourselves as well. Like, I'm not an artist, as I was talking about last week. I'm not an artist. Like, we just, annihilate, kill that idea. And then if we did begin to move into our creative genius, we'd be like, oh, it's so stupid. Look how dumb it is. I made that. Don't look. Just kidding. It's embarrassing. It's like we do it to ourselves too. Don't think for a minute that this isn't a double-edged sword. If we're doing it out there, we're definitely doing it in here. So, as adults, we resist, we ridicule, we bargain, and then time passes, and then we recognize, what, this isn't half bad. It's not half bad, and oh my God, it's not going to kill me or my tribe or my traditions. It's not going to kill me. It's going to strengthen my tribe and my traditions. Like, it's going to make me understand my traditions a little bit more when I recognize and appreciate your traditions. And we assimilate new ideas. We think that there's a death. But there's really not a death. That's what keeps us, that's what prevents us from having more diversity in our world. We think we're going to give something up. We are so fed this idea of scarcity. But actually, I know for sure that it actually, just like the sand, it makes things more beautiful. So when appreciation it comes for a new idea, that's where expansion happens. So we're literally expanding our consciousness. And the optimal idea, again, would be like the sand, to hold the truth of who you are, but also to be really comfortable around mixing and melding and merging with other different diverse ideas. When the men this morning in church, they're going out for their first men's breakfast. When they go out, they're going out as men. I'm not invited, although I tried to get in there, if you see on Facebook. I made the invitation so it looks like I'm going, and I couldn't figure out how, I'm not going to your breakfast. Not that controlling. I'll be in the back what are you talking about? But it's, the guys are going because of their similarities. They want to talk their guy language, which is subtly different than our woman language. But inside that community of similarities are diversity. Some are dads, some are not dads. Some are married, some are not married. Some are gay, some are straight. There's different diversities right in there. And it's not that we want you to conform into just being the guy. We want you to stay three-dimensional. But so to have an ebb and flow between these two ideas of finding the safety and the security in your similarities, and finding those places where you're ready to challenge yourself and expand your consciousness and move into a diversity. So, and the truth is, we're so much more the same than different. In fact, scientists have figured out just recently that genetically we're 99.9% the same. We're all sand. We're 99.9%, and we actually return to sand, right? So that's kind of interesting. So that's interesting for us to know, because we really want to focus on our differences. When you go to a 12-step program, they literally say to the newcomer, focus on the similarities, because the disease is going to make you look at everyone and go, I'm not like these folks. And then we'll practice contempt prior to investigation, which is actually from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Contempt prior to investigation. So anytime you have a closed mind about something, you could say, am I practicing contempt prior to investigation? Have I even tried the turkey meatball? I just like saying turkey meatball. So, so what I say is go to the unknown and find the known. Go out to the unknown and find the known. Find your similarities. I have a really funny story. I once took Will to this party, and so we go to this party. This woman who I'm friends with, who's in California, she was like, I'm having a birthday party for my girlfriend. Come on out to this party. And I was like, awesome, dinner party, nice restaurant. I'm there, right? So Will and I get all dressed up, and we go out to the party, and we walk in. And she comes running up to us, and she's like, oh my gosh, Will, I forgot your name tag. And we're like, oh, whatever, use a name tag. But, everyone had a name tag. So she had this makeshift name tag that she stamped on his jacket. And we're like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then he orders a drink, and the waiter kind of gives him a hairy eyeball. And he's like, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. So we're just hanging out, and all this great party, great music, great food, We sit down for dinner. And he looks at me, and he goes, Maureen, do you see something odd here? And I'm like, no, what? And he's like one of these things is not like the others? And I was like, oh my God, I brought my husband to a sober lesbian party. I swear to God, he was the only guy there, the only one drinking, and there was 99% 9 were gay. So I was like, oh, no wonder. But they were so gracious. They were like, oh, we forgot. It was actually called Goddess Central. Why didn't I get the clue? They didn't tell me. So it would be like me showing up to the breakfast today with the guys. But what? I'm not supposed to be here? We still laugh about it, though, We still laugh about it because we found, we found that it was a fun thing to do, to be the odd duck out. We think being the odd duck out is going to be so scary, but actually it's kind of fun, to be the odd person out. One time I went to a wedding. This woman, we loved her so much. We still love her. Laura and Dora were their names. And they would babysit for us. We met them at this Catholic church, and they were these two Spanish women from El Salvador, mother and daughter, and they lived in a house like a fourth the size of this, and they would watch Owen for us when we went out on dates, and they were so beautiful, and we became family with them, and to the point where I made Laura the godmother of my daughter Billy. And we went to Laura's wedding, and we were so excited to be invited to the wedding, and we were like blood, you know? We walk into the wedding, and Dora looks at us, and she's like, I'm so glad that you're here. Go sit at the American table. We both like went, what? And then we kind of like walked away laughing, but like we're like, oh, where are the Americans? I thought we were all Americans. Oh, we're the Americans. You know, what I know about that is when we're angry, lonely, hungry, or tired, or when we're stressed out a little bit. She was so nervous on this big day, single mom, finally getting her kid past the finish line. You know, so forgivable. Diversity is awkward. It's really awkward. When we reach out and befriend, you know, different philosophies and religions and societies, it's not cool and smooth, you know what I mean? It's like we're going to step on some toes. You know, we have to be compassionate about ourselves as we learn to dance with diversity. So I started out saying that diversity shows a great deal of variety, and conversing is where we get to see things as similar. And I was going to read a little poem on diversity, but I don't think we need it. I think you get the message. But what I would like to say is that I would ask you to go into your own internal teacher and see where you might, invite diversity and what it would have you do. And when we sat at our kitchen table a few days ago and I was talking about this, and then we started talking about broad strokes, like we need to do this and we need to do that, and I was like, let's just take it down to the individual level. Like, what can I do on an individual level? So what do you think? I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, or you can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter at SpeakEasySpiritualCommunity.com so we can keep the conversation going. Because SpeakEasy is all about engaging in engaging conversations. Everything is better when we all share our voice. I'm Maureen Muldoon, your spiritual vixen, reminding you to love more and fear less, and don't forget to laugh. What do you say?